Hey everybody, we're back again. Death Note Volume 2 is where we're at today, guys. We're going to be looking at this volume. We finished up Volume 1 in the first couple of videos, and now we're getting into Volume 2, which we're hoping to look to complete in 2 more videos. We're here with Christ and comic books. So guys, in getting into this video, I do want to encourage you guys to please hit that subscribe button. Finish watching these videos. Make sure you hit the bell so you can get some notifications as to the next ones that are coming up. Just a little notice here. I want to go ahead and let you guys know I'm gonna be stepping up my volume reviews here, as in I'm going to be doing more than just one book. Instead of just doing Death Note, we're going to be getting into also Fire Force. So be prepared for those upcoming videos because Fire Force seems to be really blowing up. I went ahead and bought like the first 5 volumes a while back. Because I had a personal interest, being that I love Soul Eater so much. So this is going to make things a lot more interesting to be reviewing Fire Force as we go forward. But as we get into Death Note, we're leaving off at a point where Light had set it up to where he would get the opportunity to figure out who is shadowing him, get his identity, and come up with a plan to properly deal with those people that have been following him. So the plan went forth successfully. He set it up to where he would be on a bus as if he's going on a date and be getting robbed, and he would set it up to where the FBI agent would reveal himself so that Light could get his name and who his true identity is, and of course the criminal would be handled properly without there being any civilian casualties in the process. So of course the criminal is dead. This volume starts off with the policeman coming through, the FBI agent needing to leave, Light ending the conversation with him, at least on a good note, and comedically ending with, although this incident happened, the girl still wants to go on a date anyway because she's with Light. Light, like I said in the last video, he comically joked with Ryuk telling him that he has such great pull with women, so he's using that to his advantage in what he's trying to do by ending the lives of all criminal activity, of all evil, basically getting rid of evil in the world. So this video is going to go forward with kind of following along with that FBI agent and revealing that he has someone there with him and going to Japan to figure out who Kira is and doing the shadowing of the police force's family and children. So this gentleman comes home, he's speaking with his wife, and then you kind of see where their relationship is. And what they it's funny how they played that out, because when they reveal that the woman has experience in the police force, that she was an FBI agent herself, so she knows how to spy, she knows how to do research, she knows how to tie all the pieces together in the midst of doing research. So that really speaks to her character, but it also kind of pans into the man saying, you know, you don't need to worry about that anymore, you're going to be a housewife. That's kind of what they kind of spoke to. The way that they illustrated it was a lot more respectful as far as the relationship goes, because that's one aspect of a relationship is it depends on what's already been communicated if that is a positive or negative thing to happen in that relationship. But as far as their relationship goes, she doesn't have to worry about being an agent. She doesn't have to worry about doing all this research. Baby, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to be here for you. We're going to be together forever. That's the kind of imagery that's being given here. She doesn't have to overwhelm herself, pressure herself, stress herself out anymore with this kind of work. This is his responsibility now, and I'm going to take care of it. But she was bringing out some good points. In other words, just pointing out that you can't simply discount Light as a suspect because this happened. Because the man was looking at this as though if he was really Kira, he would have handled him. The woman was looking at this as, what if this was a setup by Kira? She took it to another level. She was thinking close to the level that L would be thinking in this type of instance. So this also points out that, again, you know how in my earlier videos I was talking about how people need to be, you know, thinking, people can think on a higher level than we give them credit for, and it's not always chalked up to, you know, intellect and strategy and studying and genius to do that, because malevolence and evil can be revealed in a person regardless of their knowledge and their capabilities mentally. They are capable of doing very evil and malicious things without having a certificate for their knowledge, without demonstrating themselves to be smart or wise. So the same thing can be said in the essence of thinking through, you know, watching out for that kind of thing, you know, thinking through and figuring out who could be capable of such evil. So that doesn't limit who the parties that are capable of thinking at this level. So we have Light, we have L, and then we have this man's wife, this FBI agent's wife, who's able to kind of think on a very high level. So this volume kind of starts off in this aspect of this little moment, but it goes a step further to really go into the depth of Light's abilities with the notebook, because we got a foreshadowing of that with the testing that he did in volume 1. 2, we got a test of that with how he was able to, 1, write out what would take place with the robbery. 2, he even contributed to the outcome of the robbery by getting the criminal to touch the page of the Death Note so that he would see Ryuk, freak out, look as though he was just simply on drugs, and the story would end in that fashion without there being any revelation that Light could be Kira. So it moves into Light going forward with the plan to kill off these agents, but in a sense, in a way that would redirect them from thinking it could be Kira, but it would be suspect that it could possibly be Kira. So to put long story short, he orchestrated to where each one would be figured out, each one would be killed. But this is how he did it. What he did was he had it to where one of the agents would reach out to the head of the division or the head of their corporation and send them a letter to all of them so that they could come together and discuss, some of their, the details of what they had. But this allowed for Light to get access to each and every one of the detectives' names and kill them all off at the same time. So now no one knows, or kill them all off without him having to be, I guess you could say, involved, so to speak, too much. So this kind of takes away the energy from it, also looking at Light being the possible suspect. So he orchestrated this in a very perfect way to get rid of the opposition that he was faced with. But what this did was, it wasn't so much whether or not it's going to narrow down or take away from it being anyone that's a part of the NPA's families or children or friends. But what this did was it discouraged those ahead of the FBI to contribute by sending any more of their people over and them getting killed off, because we've already lost 12 agents. So in this aspect, L is losing the support system that he had to go forth and do this work, in the least without having to put himself on the line. So now it's to a point to where, okay, we're running out of options, we're running out of support. What is it that we're going to do? What can L come up with to try and combat Light? And the funny thing is, as he's reading the death certificate or the suicide notes for the criminals that have been dying due to Kira, he's had him write suicide notes. So in the midst of them writing these suicide notes, what you start to notice is that L realizes that there's messages in each of those notes that is written there. And if I can remember correctly, it says, "L, did you know gods like apples?" I think that was the message. I think that was the message that was written there. So it was a comedic message, almost to say to L that I'm in control, that I got you, that you're not going to find me. So that's kind of what's being playing here. But it really kind of gives L that message of that this could be a supernatural opposition that we're dealing with here. We're not just dealing with someone who's advanced in science. We're not dealing with someone here who's working with a huge organization. That there could be some supernatural aspect involved in what's happening here. So that's what's one of the major things about L that's very important, is L doesn't discount anything. L takes in all the possible factors as he comes to his conclusions when he's doing his detective work. So we're going to shift forward here a little bit, because just to kind of side back a little bit, and going forward, we see that the impact of this has also impacted the spouse of the detective who was shadowing Light. So now she is, mourning her loss, and even more so you can tell by the illustration, because it's illustrating her in the night, in black clothing, and I guess you could say mourning and sulking over her loss, even more so to, signify that she's about to get herself involved in figuring out who Light is, or figuring out who Kira is. Now, the interesting thing about that is she already had her suspicions in the person that he was tracking, so that's going to already give us that insight that we know exactly who she's going to be gunning for, watching for, and looking to take out, and that's going to be Light. So that's going to really set us up for what we can expect in the later pages and even in later volumes. So in going forward with this, we shift over to Light's father coming home, and he's sitting at the table. They're having dinner, and he hasn't been home for a while because he's been so busy with this case. He's been struggling with people staying in and working through this case to try and figure out what's happening and come to a resolution. But in the midst of them conversing, Light's father expresses that he's not giving up. He's not going to stop. He's going to keep pushing to do this, even if it costs him his life. And of course, this causes a sense of worry between the women in the family, his wife and his daughter. But in that same token, as it was revealed prior, that Light was already studying to become a detective before Ryuk came along, and so he plays into that. Keep in mind, Light is putting on a face for his family. So in the midst of this, he's telling him, Dad, I will figure out who Kira is, and I will kill him. I will bring him to justice. He plays on that in front of his dad, that kind of, one, that's to deter his father from even ever suspecting his own son, but two, it's like to save face and to make a joke about how he really won't be caught. So that's the two sides of what's happening with Light giving this imagery towards his family, playing this character with his family. And Ryuk is just watching this and finding this so, I won't say humorous, but I will say he finds it very interesting that human beings are capable of these types of things, putting on these faces, performing at this level, condoning these kind of actions, practicing these kinds of actions, coming up with these kinds of strategies. All of these things really interest Ryuk to be witnessing. So as we go forward here, the detective ends up going back into work. He comes to find out that, he has a decision to make. He has to really get the ball rolling. So he sets forward basically to tell everybody that, hey, this is the case. This is what's happening. We need to come to a decision as to who's going to stick this out or who's going to leave. So he really sets forth, are you really going to do this or are you not going to do this? If you're not going to do this, I need you to leave now. So if you're really down for figuring out who Kira is, if you're really all in for what we're going to be doing, because he's sick of the gossip that's going around the office due to the FBI agents that have died. He's sick of, seeing people coming and going. He's even already thinking about, I'm worried if someone in this room is leaking any information. That's concerning. So he leaves the room, allows for anyone that's going to leave, anyone that's going to stay to stay. So some time passes. He comes back in. Come to find out, he only has 5 people left in the office. 5 people plus Watari. Watari is the guy that is the voice for L, as in, controlling his computer monitor, letting everybody know what L's said, what L's doing, and stuff like that. He's like that the representation for him. Ooh, boy, I need to calm down. I started thinking. Okay, so going forward with that, when he comes back to the office, Watari turns the computer monitor around, and there's text on this computer screen saying that L is going to come to see them. L is going to come to see them. L is going to reveal himself to them. L is going to try and work with them to help build the trust between them, and he wants them to be able to figure this case out, basically. And he's doing this basically saying that, I'm coming, we're going to work together, we're going to figure this out. If you're in, I need to know that you're 100% in. So now we already had the petition from the head of the NPA. Now we have this commission coming from L of the same thing. Now with L proposing this and inquiring of the trust of the people that's there, these people have already, even these 5 have already expressed a high level of distrust for L. They don't trust him. We want to stop Kira. We want to stop evil, but we don't care to do it with him because he won't reveal himself. He hasn't shown himself willing to come. Now he's demonstrating that I'm willing to be there with you guys to figure this out. Are you willing to still work with me? So in the midst of this, at least one of them still leaves. He jokingly says, don't worry, I won't say anything. But before L gives them any more information, he has them decide who's actually going to stay. So with it now being down to specifically 5 people, so it's 4 plus the head of the NPA, Light's dad, so that's 5 people. There's Watari, and now we have L. So come to find out, L is in a hotel room actually in Japan, and what they're going to do is they're going to rotate between several different hotels from a few days past. They're not truly going to be checking in at the detective office for the NPA. However, their true place of investigation is going to be happening at each hotel room, and of course as they rotate. So now we're at the point where we are going to be preparing to meet L. And this is where I kind of want to stop at because I want to hit on 2 things here. One of the things that I want to hit on is with what took place between the leader of the NPA, Light's father, seeing who's really going to stay and who's really going to go. Like I said, I like to do that biblical symbolism, biblical replication taking place in these stories. So in this instance, with that, him seeing who's really going to be in and who's really not going to be in, as we go to war basically with Kira. This reflects with the story of Gideon, because Gideon was called to lead the children of Israel to war against their oppressors. And in going to war against their oppressors, they started out with a great deal of numbers to go against them, but God had Gideon instead to dwindle down his numbers. So they went from about 50,000 soldiers, and I'm just guessing from my memory right off the top of the head, they went from 50,000 soldiers down to 300 to go to war against, to put it simply, against a nation, to see about victory. So that kind of plays into that of, we don't need a majority of people to lead to our success, but we need people that are truly committed. We need people that are 100% willing to commit to this, to fulfill this thing, so that we can bring about a victory. And it's not about being more powerful, it's about being wiser to bring about this victory. So one thing about the Gideon story is that they had to I had to cut that part out. Jesus, I done coughed, I done sneezed, cut that stuff out. So, but he had to dwindle down his numbers. One way he did, he confirmed who was truly here to fight, who was willing to fight. So some people left. Then he learned how the people would drink water to determine if they would drink as if they're still staying ready, or if they're going to drink as if they're not going to be attentive to their surroundings. And the ones not attentive to their surroundings were removed. So that's how they learned who's truly going to be able to fight effectively for this warfare. And instead of going in swords swinging into this warfare, they confused the enemy by making loud noises to make it seem as though they were overwhelmed, and the enemy started killing themselves off. So that really leads to what we're going to be seeing with the NPA and the 4 men that are left, or excuse me, the 5 men that are left, with El coming in to help them. Now this segues into the imagery, that's the symbolism that's being given with El coming to assist them. With El coming to assist them, here's how I'm seeing it. If I'm overstretching it, call me out. I don't mind, but I really see it like this. When you look at El coming, it's almost as if with the children of Israel, how they had to, one, become a nation, 2, maintain themselves, watch themselves enter into slavery, come out of slavery, into slavery, being overran by other countries and being dictated by false powers, and basically their God being insulted years after year after year after year for several hundreds of years, just for them to hear that the Savior is coming, but they still don't see the Savior coming. And so that really does hurt the trust that a people would have in the God that they had a love for, and the God that they had trusted their lives in, and the God that they've been waiting for to come in and show themselves victorious to make a difference. And now they finally had the Savior come. For the Bible, it was Jesus finally came to save us. Jesus finally came to save us. In this instance, El is coming to be that Savior for them, to coming to reveal himself. He's not just a man behind the computer, and it's also not just God sitting in heaven on the throne watching his people suffer. I've coming with a plan as well. I've been thinking this thing through. I know what is and is not going to work, so that we can fully fulfill this plan that's going forward. So El has done that by strategizing what's the best way to figure out who Kira is, piecing together the puzzles before he makes himself known in the actual location where they're at. God set forth a plan with what took place with the children of Israel, so that when Jesus came, he would be coming in the right time, in the right form, under the right lineage, and the perfect time in history in which to make himself known. So both of those two things correlate, and I wanted to make sure that was pointed out. That was one of the major things that I've gotten in this first part of Volume 2 that I think is very significant, and we're going to continue to see going forward. And even if you find it what I find even more funny, Volume 1, I've shown this to you guys already. Volume 1 is a very dark cover, and you see Light with a scythe in his hands, but now we have Volume 2, and it's a white volume with El sitting in the center of a cross. So it's very interesting imagery that we get from these books. But I want to thank you guys for checking out my video. Please, again, just make sure you hit that subscribe button. Watch the videos all the way through. Please leave your feedback. I thank you for your feedback because it encourages me to do better and do more. Thank you guys. Have a blessed one.